go through some of the things. The Anthropic story, like Decart AI, it wasn't even a company that was on our radar. How are you seeing things continuing to unfold?
Good to see you, Carol and team. So it's interesting. I was following your earlier conversation as well. And fundamentally, what we are contending with in many of these stories is the notion that current models and the delivery of AI as an outcome is very, very compute heavy because the models are very, very data hungry. In many ways, neural nets as the basis for what we're seeing, today with Anthropic and, OpenAI and others, their success is also their limitation, which is they're not efficient. So in any facet of the technology market today, private or public, you are seeing major attempts to tackle the efficiency of performance in every step of the way. So your story that you covered around the acquisition talks for Decart, that's an attempt by Anthropic to basically get, inference and training to be more efficient. As a side note, I heard you, Carol, ask whether there were other companies. We invested in MacGen, which is, is far in a way better in performance than Decart, and there are others like Together AI and whatnot. So there are a number of players trying to tackle that from a inference and performance point of view.
So would you say? Yeah, I just want to jump in because if we're thinking about Anthropic and Decart, would then, let's say that goes through, and again, our Bloomberg News team reporting the deal hasn't gone through and it could still fall apart. Let's say that goes through. Would the companies that you've invested in that you think do a better job than this, would those become acquisition targets by, let's say, an OpenAI?
Potentially at this stage, anything goes, and I don't mean to be sort of laissez-faire about that statement, but in this moment in time, the emerging incumbents in the AI infrastructure are really racing to who can perform better. And it's not about the better model. It's really about the better data that then informs the better output. The more efficient output, the more cost-effective output. With AI, we are paying in tokens, we being the enterprises and the users. It's a consumption-based model. That's a huge deterrent to use, which is what Anthropic, OpenAI, and others build their performance on. The more you use, the more they, succeed. But if the cost is high and that's the best that they can do delivering the product, that becomes a barrier. So what do? You try to evolve your models to make them less data hungry, and you see a number of neo labs that are looking at that. Think about unconventional AI. I don't know if you've come across them, but it's an incredible team that is basically doing a vertically integrated play from the chip and redesigning the chip all the way to the foundation model and everything in between, and really kind of taking an approach similar to your mind rather than the brain. So if the neural nets or what Anthropic and OpenAI are doing are the brain-like processing, data hungry, our minds need very little data, and we can draw quite a bit on inference and train, if you will, and come to conclusions. So they're taking a whole different approach to solving this problem in a fully integrated manner. I share that to say that there are many, many attempts in the market to solve that challenge.
Can I just tell you, though, I was playing around with one model, asking questions back and forth, and then all of a sudden I was cut off. And they're like, well, if you want to pay, a little bit more money, we can keep going. And I kind of jokingly was like, well, wait, shouldn't you be paying me because I'm helping you make this model better? Like it's a little bit crazy, right, in terms of this model right now.
Well, but Carol, you gave that right away when the web came about and the internet came about with our searches, with everything else. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a single company a tech company that went out on a privacy message and had a privacy product that succeeded. We are way more aware of what data privacy means today than we were even 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. But in many, many ways, that's a little bit of a table stake. And we would have to do a huge turn. Even Cambridge Analytica, which now feels like an ancient story, didn't really turn the tide.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right? Remember, we were all in an uproar over that, and that here we are today. So I think it's interesting what you just said, and I do think about efficiency and kind of the next wave. Is that the next wave, the next narrative that we're going to be talking about even more and more? We've been talking ROI a lot more than we ever have before, and you do start to see certain companies, whether it was some of the hyperscalers, getting beaten up, or some of them rewarded depending on their results. So where do you see kind of the narrative going, and the companies that, I'm curious of any new investments that you have recently made, because as you continue to see this AI story evolve?
Yeah, so let me part that question in its two parts as I address it. So in terms of what we are seeing in the market, I think fundamentally productivity is the key word, measured productivity. So you could use ROI as a measurable reflection of that. You could use reducing costs as a measurable reflection of that. But ultimately, it's about productivity and deploying, delivering productivity at scale for business and consumers. So the input is revenue, the output is cost, hence this entire discussion. Further to that, though, we're also seeing a shift in business models, and this is a fundamental shift. The notion of software as a service may be dead. Every enterprise, especially mid-market enterprises, are looking for AI as a service. They're looking for someone or set of entities that deliver beginning to end outputs. And the bigger enterprises are taking the view that they will no longer purchase software or technologies from third parties. Instead, they will get the horizontal layer, think Microsoft Fabric and others, and then build agents internally. So we're entering a new era, if you will, of how tech will be built, how it will be used, and how it will be monetized. In terms of most recent investments, I will save the name of the company for now because they're in stealth, but we're very excited to have backed a high-flying team that was previously at Crusoe, Airbnb, Meta, Google, so sort of all the credentials where they built and managed the clusters in the data centers, cradle to grave. And this team is really sort of building AI and forward deployed engineering to manage those at scale. So I'm quite excited.
Well, speaking of acquisitions or potential, there's a report, Bloomberg has not been able to confirm it, so we're trying to be very careful about this, but we have seen shares of Workday jumping big time on a Reuters report that private equity firm Silver Lake is in talks to purchase the software provider. And we know that this is a company that's been hit, shares been under pressure because of concerns about, being threatened by AI startups. You just said, I think you said almost all SaaS companies are really threatened. Is a company like this, do you not see value in what they do going forward? An opinion, that's all Yeah,
it's an opinion, and I hope it's somewhat of an educated opinion. So I have zero visibility as to what's happening between Silver Lake and Workday. Right. Filing that to the side, look, Workday has a set of customers, and empires die, but they die slowly, even smaller empires. So there is value and retention value in what Workday delivers, and honestly, the switching costs around it for its current customer base. I suspect, I do not know, but I suspect that what a Silver Lake partner would believe is in their ability and the management's ability, or if they're bringing new management, in that group's ability to transform Workday from a historically SaaS and maybe with some AI wrappers to a true AI company while having the cash flows and the retention rates that it has currently with its customers. That has to be the bet. I will deliver the product in an AI, perhaps AI first or AI as a service manner, and I have an incumbent customer base that I own that I can push it to. If they can execute on the go-to-market, that probably is the bet.
So again, Bloomberg's not matching this reporting. This is a Reuters report. But if this indeed happens and it gets taken private, will we see more of these take-private deals of these SaaS companies?
Potentially, in particular, if there is a belief that they're undervalued because public markets are not giving them enough credit. Why not? Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay.
And can every SaaS company be converted into kind of an AI play? And again, just got about 25 seconds, real quick.
Yeah, and that's the $1 trillion question. it's like saying how, think about digital transformation and what
Yeah.
enterprises and companies had to do with that. It's a complete transformation from a business model to a workforce usage to how things are built. Having said that, they are tech companies, so presumably their teams are hungry users of any new technology. Will all of them make it? Probably not. But is it a closed door? No.